When you picture your own grandmother, it's easy to fall into a common childhood trick of the mind. You see her as a static figure, someone who has simply always been old, always been wrinkled, and always remained exactly as she is now. For author Khushwant Singh, this perception wasn't just a childhood phase, it was the foundation of his entire relationship with his grandmother. To him, the idea that she could have once been young or pretty was almost impossible to believe. She was defined by a specific, unshifting motif. Dressed in white, she walked with one hand on her waist to balance her stoop, while the other was constantly occupied with the beads of a rosary. This unchanging image created a sense of absolute predictability. In a world that was constantly shifting, her presence felt like a constant, a bond that seemed entirely immune to the passage of time. In their rural village, this bond flourished in total symbiosis. With Singh's parents living in the city, the young boy and the old woman became inseparable. Their daily life was a synchronized routine. She would wake him, dress him, and walk him to the temple school, where she would sit and read scriptures while he learned his morning prayers. On their walk home, they shared a simple, grounding ritual, feeding stale chapatis to the village street dogs that followed them. They were completely integrated into the world around them. The turning point arrived suddenly. Singh's parents, having settled in the city, summoned both the grandmother and the boy to live with them. While the move to the city promised progress for the family, it functioned as a geographical wedge. It pulled the grandmother away from the village life that defined her relationship with her grandson, beginning a slow detachment neither of them could stop. The arrival in the city instantly fractured their shared rural life. The bustling environment had no place for their old routines. The physical separation began with the morning commute. Instead of a shared walk, the grandson now took a motor bus to an English school, leaving his grandmother behind. The curriculum drove them further apart. As Singh studied Western science and evolution, his grandmother couldn't understand the language. She was distressed by the absence of God in these teachings. When he started music lessons, a subject she associated with lower classes, she withdrew further. Their shared vocabulary had vanished. What was once a deep conversational friendship had turned into a heavy, persistent silence. The final break occurred when Singh went to the university. For the first time, he was given his own room, and the last physical link of their shared childhood room was severed. The grandmother didn't protest. She accepted her isolation with a quiet, stoic resignation that defined her final years. She pivoted toward her own internal world. She spent her days at her spinning wheel and turned her attention from the village dogs to the city sparrows, feeding hundreds of them in the courtyard. When Singh left to study abroad for 5 years, she met him at the railway station. She showed no visible emotion, no tears, no sentiment, only the constant movement of her lips in prayer as she kissed his forehead. As the boy's world expanded through education and distance, the grandmother's world contracted. She retreated into an internal space where nature and ritual provided the only remaining company, as her family outgrew her. When Singh returned 5 years later, he found her exactly as he had left her. But the following morning, the routine finally broke when she developed a mild fever. While the doctor was optimistic, the grandmother was certain. She announced that her end was near and refused to spend her final moments talking, turning instead to her bed and her prayers. Her lips stopped moving, and the rosary, the constant companion of her hands, finally slipped from her lifeless fingers. Thousands of sparrows gathered around her body in the courtyard. In an unnatural show of mourning, they sat in absolute silence, refusing to touch the breadcrumbs offered to them by the family. Khushwant Singh's narrative captures the unavoidable cost of moving toward adulthood. It reveals the quiet, persistent strength of a grandparent's love, a bond that persists in the background,